All right. Listen, Yuri, has this been 5 years in the making? How long have we been digitally talking?
Since 2022, so close to
Weird, right?
4. Yeah, yeah.
So for you listeners, for context, so Yuri is literally the king of connection and community. And when we met about 5 years ago, yeah, about 4 years ago, were you already in the freelance world, or do you remember how did we connect in the first place?
I believe we connected because of John Younger, because of their
Yeah,
connection with 9 a.m., with Freelancer Map, with Mark and Code Control. And I was working back then with Code Control and 9 a.m. and helping to grow the freelance community. And I
that's
was
right.
reaching out to freelancers out there. And then I don't remember if we met before the Freelance Unlocked conference itself, but
Yeah.
definitely around Freelance Unlocked conference because we started to create the best conference for freelancers in Europe, and who are the most well-known experts. Of course, you and John Younger. So who else can we talk to? And I believe it was something around that
It was
time.
exactly that. Yeah, that's right. You were building out the freelancer communities. And then it was, what was it, 2 years ago, where you were like, hey, I'm going to be focusing just on getting or not just, but I'm going to be prioritizing getting the companies to embrace freelance models. Was that a year ago or 2 years ago?
Close to a year. And it was fun because I have this thing in my heart that always like, how can I help people? How can I move them forward? How can I elevate them? And when I was talking, so at 9 a.m. at Code Control, I was working mostly with freelancers. So I was
Yeah.
talking to them. I was helping them like how to sell yourself, how to market yourself, how to connect with recruiters and clients and all this stuff around freelancing. And the number one question I didn't have an answer to, how do I get projects? I mean, in a way, like, of course, there are like things and steps you can take to get projects, but like, give me projects. I didn't have an answer. I didn't have projects to give. And then we were speaking with Thomas from Freelancer Map, and he was like, hey, you have this experience working with freelancers, you know everything about freelancers. We want to move to another new country, to a new market. So they are very well known in DACH region market. They've been there for over 20 years. Like, why don't you, like, you are there in Poland. Why don't you help us grow the Polish market? I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. I've never done this before, but I know like a lot of freelancers. I know what they're struggling with. I know what are the benefits of working with them. I know how to work with them. So let me go out there. Let me talk to HR leaders, to recruiting leaders, to company founders and business owners, and let help them change their mindset into working with freelancers and tap into this talent. So yeah, that's still the things that I'm kind of like fighting with, I would say.
Yeah. And do you remember what I told you a year ago? You can paraphrase it, but do you remember what I told you?
What exactly, Matt? You told me so many things. So what exactly are you
The
talking
key theme.
about?
What was the key theme? When you were like, "Hey, I'm going to be focused on getting companies to embrace freelance." What was my key message to you? Do you? It's okay to say I don't remember. It was pretty dumb, and I didn't want to listen. But what was the key message I told you?
I feel like I'm in an exam, you know? But from my perspective, from what I can feel about it, that one of the key messages that you told me, that they don't give a shit about independent talent.
That's
I mean, like in a way that there is a hard time getting to them because they have a very, very fixed mindset. And the moment you have to kind of like break through this mindset, they will, tap into those benefits. But it's not that easy, and I don't remember if it was like
you
the
nailed it.
main message, the core, or
That's
like one of the messages. So yeah,
that's
did I
exactly
did I
right.
get A or B or C? I don't know, but
Yeah, that was exactly it. What I told you, and it's because what I told you and what I tell most founders, especially when they're new in this space, is the company demand side. That's like the strap in. This is going to be the hardest fight of your life, and everything you expect is probably not going to happen, and you're going to have to iterate in so many different ways. And the answer might be, to your point, they just don't give a shit, which sucks, right? From an answer perspective, and especially because you had the background of, hey, you're seeing these incredible individuals doing incredible work, getting incredibly loyal and passionate to their customers and their clients. and you're seeing these incredible outcomes. And so it's just common sense. You're like, why wouldn't every company want to hire this individual in this way rather than what they've always turned to? And kind of to preface this episode, for you listeners and for yours, like the pitch and the sell is so obvious, right? Like and I'll give you like the CEO mindset. What do we all want? We all want to make more money and decrease less, have less cost. Okay, how do we get there? We need individuals that are really fucking impressive and ambitious and are going to go the extra mile to get it done. All right, from that first principle, do you want the full-time employee for most of the work who's just trying to make sure they don't get fired, not rocking the boat, like, which is good in some cases, right? Good in some cases. Or do you want that individual who specializes in exactly what you're doing in your exact industry, can work based off of the outcome and be accountable to their impact and outcome? So the pitch should be so easy, but as you learn, my friend, ooh, is it hard? Now, I do want to say one last thing, Yuri, before we dive into questions and all that. But so, for listeners out there, Yuri is our best actor. So, Yuri, you've had the past 3 months, you've probably had all of the existing talent industry experts, right? So Ray and Jeff and Tony and most of it, man, you got like 80% of the market cornered, right? So what's going to be really exciting for this episode is you have so many insights and visibility across the landscape. And here's the most important part, from a new lens. So you're not coming from this being like, I've been in the talent space for 30 plus years. I started as a recruiter, which is usually the picture we hear. I started as a recruiter. You're coming in this from a totally outside lens. So first, Yuri, if we could tell the listeners where you're based and then just give them, like, from the eyes of Yuri, what the past year has been like for you.
Yeah, so first of all, I can tell that Human Clown is a podcast that I'm learning from. And, I usually listen to some great experts and then I message them, hey, I just listened to Human Cloud. You're an amazing expert. Let's go talk to the Independent Workforce podcast. So that's how I get a lot of great experts on a podcast because, like, you already tested them for me. So, like, now I can actually go and speak to them. And I'm currently in Poland, in Warsaw, and I came here from Ukraine, and for the last year, or like the time that I was working with companies, I can tell you that I reached out to over 1,000 people in HR recruiting industry, and I'm not talking about specifically recruiters, hirers, but like to managing directors, to CEOs, to founders, to procurement experts, and specifically on the Polish market because I'm growing the freelancer map on the Polish market, and I I tried different messaging. I tried like, hey, we're growing this independent workforce. What are the challenges that you are dealing with? Crickets. The next message, hey, we have 95,000 freelancers ready to work, to deliver whatever you ask them. They're ready to be onboarded in one day and want to work with you. Go hire them. Crickets. So now I'm trying another message. Hey, I'm building this industry with the best experts in the world, with experts from Airbus, Microsoft, NASA, OpenAssembly, and all these amazing companies worldwide. I interview them on the podcast. They share their experience. Do you have, and like, okay, do you work with this talent? Do you even know that they exist? So I go like step backwards, not from like, what are the challenges and would you like to work, but do you really know that they exist? And I started to get more answers, which is great. But most of those answers is that thank you, I'm not interested. So and I'm like, I don't really get it. I mean, like, as you've said, it's so an easy pitch that
Yeah.
you need get shit done. You need someone to make it, and you don't want to spend time and 3 or 6 months on hiring and onboarding this talent. Like, are there any questions? What are the questions? Compliance, there is a tool for that. If you don't know how to do it yourself, there is a tool for that. You need some background checking, there is a tool for that, as you told me before. Like, for everything, there is a tool, or if it's not a tool, you can still hire someone who will help you dealing with this. You can still go and hire some of the experts who will guide you like by hand through all the steps of hiring this independent talents. And if we are talking from the legislation perspective, it's not that hard. Every company can do this. The hardest part is that they have very fixed mindset. As programmers say, if something works, don't touch it. That's exactly how companies, at least here in Poland, approach independent. That's what I see. That's how they approach the independent talent. If something works, if we have our crazy model of hiring talents for 3 6 months, but it works, don't touch it. And no one wants to touch it. I have experiences of companies who have who are working with Freelancer Map in Germany. They have their company in Poland, the same brand, the same name, but huge difference. In Germany, they hire this talent. In Poland, they don't want to hear about this talent. And I just don't get it. Maybe it's some kind of international thing. Maybe it's some kind of that we are Polish people. We are not working with independent talent. But once again, I'm still meeting some amazing people who understand me. But it's like a so small part of the bigger picture that I'm sometimes I'm getting desperate. Like, people, are you crazy? Do you not want to make money faster and save money? Don't you want to move forward faster? Like, people, there is AI coming. AI will kill your businesses. Do you want to grow your businesses? Like, do you have AI experts in your company? Most likely not. How do you have AI in your company if you don't hire independent talent? And AI is just this new sexy thing. It's something just to talk about, but it can be about anything. It can be about SEO, about design, about programming, about sales, about marketing, like, you name it. So I still don't get it.
So let me God, I love that. So let me preface this by and I'll go I'll go down the rabbit hole of like falling in love with the benefits without deeply understanding the gap, right? And so I'll add to this, I'll add 117th benefit to what we already know. It's a transformational, benefit. But so one of the massive ones, Yuri, that we've had with you, because for you listeners out there, like if you need a community expert, you're the one, right? So you've straddled two industries where, like, if community, you are that individual that should be getting hired as the fractional community expert, the fractional lead, right? And but so one of the things that we've had experience with you is if you were an employee and we were to come to you and we were like, hey, we want to do community, then you would be like, okay, like here's my resume, here's my cover letter, and then we're going to negotiate on things like price and a bunch of things that to us don't really matter. Now, instead, I come to you as founder and CEO being like, Yuri, what do we do about community? And instead, you're like asking me questions, right? So one, you're teaching me things that I didn't know before. And then two, you're like, well, listen, here's the roadmap of what you should, expect. And long story short, you actually showed me how, oh yeah, we definitely don't want to invest in community right now. And that was didn't need money in your pocket, but it meant, holy shit, did you save us from a lot of sunk costs and potential poor investments? And so that's one of the massive benefits in this model is like, holy shit, like you have someone that you can actually trust because the incentives are aligned for them to want to win you long term, not just to have a job. So for you listeners, that's one massive benefit. Now let's try to dig deeper into this gap. I believe, and this is from seeing this model since 2012. I believe no one cares about gig, no one cares about freelance, no one cares about fractional. They really only care about their own problem. And it's really up to us to honestly not even let them think about those words because they become a distraction. But if you had to like crystallize, what do you think it is? Do you think it's as simple as they just don't care, don't want to think about it? Do you think it's because, the industry hasn't been able to match problem statement to solution? What do you think is like the key drivers of this gap?
First of all, once again, it's a mindset of how it's been done forever. Because people usually, I'm not talking just specifically about the niche, but people usually afraid of something new and they don't want to try it. When people created a car, they were thinking it was driven by demonic powers and they were afraid of it. When people created AI, some people thought that they will suck their brain and they will never use AI and all. And there are still people who are not using AI, which is bad for them. But yeah, at some point, at some point, people didn't use mobile phones. Now people cannot experience their life without it. And even if they, away of home and they are ready to go like 30 minutes back just to get their phone back. And I feel like it's all about being afraid of something new, and not even being able, but not wanting to spend time into unknown result. So they kind of like may
Mhm.
understand that yes, it may bring us something.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, but it's very similar, as you said, to community, because when you are building a community, you won't have overnight results. You have to create a strategy. You have to go back from business goals, understand what do you want to achieve, deconstruct it into community goals, and then you start building relationships, and people help you get to those business results you want to achieve. It's very similar here. It's not an overnight success journey. They have to, if we're talking about the organization, the person who wants to try it, they need to get budget. To get budget, they need to go to their manager. To go to their manager, they need, and blah blah blah. It's like the whole. I don't know how many people involved in just one simple decision. So it's easy if there is a collaboration with a small business, like where the owner makes all the decisions and like, hey, okay, let's do it. Let's work. Here is money. Let's go. But if we're talking about the bigger companies, I believe it's all about the process part. They don't know where to start, and even if they know where to start, they are so they are so under this crazy amount of job that are on their shoulders that they don't have even time to spend on even starting this project. So they definitely need help. But once again, if we are coming about getting help, hiring someone, you need to get budget, and then we start over and over and over again. It's always like this, a chicken egg problem, I would say.
So I love the analogy. I hadn't heard this one in a while. I love how you brought up actually like going to mobile. Like even that was, not overnight. And I'll bring up and my thesis on what you said. Part of this is you have to capture people in the oh shit moment because unfortunately talent is such a high impact but also high process decision that the pain just has to be so strong and acute for it to be worth it. And so I'll use the example of the iPhone actually because I remember this vividly. And I don't know. This is going to be the stories that we tell our kids, right? About like, remember when? But so I remember being in college, and like most of my friends had iPhones, and I was like, no, no, I got my flip phone. I don't need anything else, right? And then I missed my first meeting because there was an email 10 minutes before, and I show up and I'm waiting there for hours, and then the person finally shows up, and they're like, oh, I emailed you. And I'm like, well, how would I know? I don't have a computer and whatever it is. And sure enough, if I had a damn iPhone, I wouldn't have missed the meeting. And so I went straight from there to the Verizon store and got the iPhone. But it was because it captured me in the oh shit moment rather than, having to teach me, oh, you should have this. Oh, you can have these 10x benefits. So that was my oh shit moment with mobile and the iPhone. And I think with talent, we kind of need similar things. Um, what do you think?
It's so hard, because I'm the person who wants to learn, who wants to teach them, who wants to help them to get the best of what is coming, what are like the most companies, the best companies. Look, I talked to Yurii Lopez, like ex Microsoft. He told me about the amazing community of freelance experts they've built in at Microsoft. And like with over, I don't know, 700 people with like 40, like 70 countries or something like that. I don't even remember these huge numbers, but they built community, and it was not their job to do this. They just make it so that people can easily work with Microsoft, and Microsoft can benefit of working with this independent talent. Why don't any other company want to make the same thing? Why don't they go, okay, it's not hard. It's not that
No.
you have to spend, I don't know how many hours and money. You just need a will to try it. You just need to try it. And for me, it's weird. I still don't get it. I don't have an answer like what is the blockers, but also I have friends in corporates and organizations, and I see this how they send responsibilities to each other. Oh, it's not my task. I will pass it to someone else. Or how they go to meetings just to schedule another 3 meetings. And I'm like, people, what you are getting paid for? Are you getting paid for like sitting on a chair, or are you getting paid for results? Because it's a huge difference for freelancers. Freelancers are not getting paid for sitting on the chair, because otherwise I would be a millionaire already, you know? They are paid by results, and you have to deliver. And that's the craziest part. And, you know, for example, if we're talking about startups, startups are using independent talent. Startups, okay, of course you have some founding members, you know, some CEO or founder or whatever, but then you just hire people here and there for specific tasks. You don't hire them full time just to sit in your office, because you don't have money for that and you don't have time for that. You want to be flexible, you want to be agile, you want to be fast. I don't know, maybe just companies don't want to be there, you know, and I have no idea.
So let's let me double click. Let's nerd out on Microsoft, because Microsoft in one way has been an industry darling in how it's embraced the flexible workforce, and another way has been like a total laggard. But so quick history. So a quick history lesson on Microsoft. So if you walk the halls in Redmond, now this is very common in large companies. If you're not in Redmond, it's tough to get stuff done. But so you walk the halls in Redmond and you say, hey, we're going to build a contractor workforce. We're going to build a flexible, a freelance, a gig workforce. What every executive is kind of trained on, or not even trained on, what every executive has as a scar is that in 1999, Microsoft had this massive class action lawsuit. It was called the Permatemp lawsuit. Basically, what happened was when Microsoft was founded, they said, hey, you have two employment paths. One is equity, one is contract. If contract, here's the cash and you're going to make more money. If equity, you're going to take a risk that this is going to work. And if it does, then you'll be better off later on. So, sure enough, it works. Microsoft goes public. And then the day it goes public, you have a bunch of lawyers at a bar being like, hey, you guys, you are totally mistreated. Like, you should have been given the equity that all your colleagues were given. And so, sure enough, this doesn't turn into like a what is right and wrong. This turns into what can lawyers sue for. So there's this massive permatemp lawsuit. Now, it wasn't that much money. It was like $99 million, I think, but it was a brand hit, right? So in Microsoft, like, and this is in a lot of companies, you walk the halls and you just have this immediate, like, I'm not touching that, right? Like, well, that's a hot potato. Now, in terms of flexible talent spend at Microsoft, so I will owe Microsoft for my whole life because I was fortunate to go scale up to $50 million a year on freelancers. And that was getting everyone in the company to be able to embrace that. Now we had an incredible team that was doing it, right? So like we had a full team dedicated towards Microsoft's adoption of flexible talent outside of procurement. And like, so we had this full team that was doing that. Now, what the data said is that 92% of new projects were coming from colleagues talking to each other. Now, I can tell you from the conversations, this was not an education about, ooh, there's these freelancers and they're cheaper and they're faster and whatever. This was literally you'd be in a presentation, someone would do a deck or they'd do a demo or something like that. And a leader would go, how'd you do that? And then they would go, oh, hired this freelancer. And then what would usually happen is the individual who hired the freelancer at first would either extend the contract or would just create the connection. So there was no education, right? And if we look at the example you were talking about, which was Microsoft's like one of their customer experience initiatives, there's two problems. One is while it's big in the flexible workforce side, tiny in the full talent spec, right? Like still less than 1% of what's getting spent. Second is, unless you have the highest level executive buy-in, that's getting canned. The second it's no longer, beneficial. And not even beneficial, just the second that a higher executive doesn't want to deal with it. So what freelance and flexible talent has been kind of products of in a bad way is unless you have the highest of level executive sign off, it just gets put to the side because it gets put in the too hard bucket. Now, I'll stop my rant after this, I swear. But so if we look at like if we dissect that too hard bucket, there's literally in the world of talent, you have person who needs job, who needs the talent now, and you have the planning. In the planning phase, The two options are, hey, we're going to change up either our agencies that we use or our vendors or whatever. Option one, big consultancy spends 500 to 1.5 to do a discovery session, takes multiple months, comes out on the other side saying, oh, we should use the vendors we've always used. Option two, you hire a consultant, cheaper, 50 to 150K, maybe get some good results, but then you get into the execution and implementation phase of how do we do this, right? So it's really, really hard is all is the net of it. But Yurii, so here's what I find so exciting. You talked with a lot of the existing or the traditional talent leaders, right? Talk with Jeff, talk with Ray. You've had them all on your podcast. I had a feeling they came. No, I was kidding. I was gonna say I had a feeling they came from ours, but no, no. We will always be your lead channel, Yurii. But so, what are some of the insights that you picked up? Was there like different terms? Was there a different mindset that they had? Was there a different tactical things? What did you take away after kind of seeing a preview of the traditional talent world?
Look, they think as business. So they think as business owners. They don't think as a person who needs some permission from a manager or whatever. They think in terms of like what's best for business. And that's exactly what is their narrative, what they are talking about, how they present talent to companies. Because once again, if you are going to, I don't know who you go to. You go to HR, recruiting, procurement, whatever, wherever you go, and then you tell them about like hiring this talent, bringing the best results, doing things super fast. They don't care because what they care about who will cover me, who will, if this person fucks up, who will be responsible for that? I will be responsible. No way I'm doing this. So they will never do this. I had this example in one of the Polish companies. So I connected with, I don't know, 30, 40 people of the company, of the recruiting company. No one did anything to start working with Freelancer Map. Then somehow, like through the podcast, I got a connection with the CEO. We met with the CEO in 30 minutes. He told me, hey, those are 4 people. Go speak to them. Go work with them. I go speak to them, I go start working with them, and then I fall back into this, it's not my responsibility. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't need anything. And I'm like, I'm not asking you for time or money. I will do everything for you. Just post a project or let's co-create this meetup for freelancers. They don't care, you know? So the hardest part is to identify this 0.1% of leaders, I will call them leaders,
Yeah.
who wants to go outside of the box, who wants to think outside of the box. And that's exactly what those people that I was talking to at the Independent Workforce podcast, that's what they're doing. They're thinking outside of the box. They're thinking not in terms of titles, but they are thinking in terms of tasks to be done, in terms of services to be given. They're not thinking like, what what key, I don't know, team player I will hire who will sit with me for 10 years. No, they think in a way that there is a project, it has to be done tomorrow. Who can make it? Who can, it has to be, it had to be done yesterday. Who can make it now? That's the most project that's usually companies creating for freelancers. They don't even think about the future. They think about something that wasn't, didn't, someone didn't make it, and now they go and find a replacement because they don't have other choice. They need to deliver. They have other clients. They have problems, and that's when they go to independent talent because it's like they're fixing it. They're dealing with all the stuff. So, but also, on the other hand, there is one thing that I see specifically in Poland. I have this feeling sometimes that I'm living in this fairy tale bubble of independent talent. I think that in my world, there are like butterflies and unicorns and stars, and every company is hiring freelancer. That's the feeling that I'm getting from talking to these experts from the US, from the UK, from like Western Europe. And then I go to reality in Poland and I speak to those people and I'm like, they didn't even hear about this. Everyone is talking about the future of work, but there is no such thing as independent talent or flexible workforce or something like that in their future of work. Is their future of work is usually AI as a best
Yeah.
case scenario, sometimes even not. And it's a question that I'm asking to myself. am I doing something wrong, or industry sucks? Or maybe I'm speaking to wrong people. That's always the question that I'm trying to deal with. And I'm trying to still identify the right people to talk to. I'm trying to identify who has as much passion as I have for this market and with whom I can build it together, because I can do it by myself. If I would be able to do it by myself, I would have already done that. You don't have to ask me twice. Ask me today, tomorrow it's ready. But like it's a huge industry, and we need people who are not afraid of trying things and who are not afraid of taking responsibility. And responsibility is the word that people like afraid of so much. They do everything they can to move it away from them, as you said, as a hot potato. So yeah, we can talk about it forever,
Yeah, so I would short answer, it's the industry problem. But the problem is very clear. It's you can never take a solution and try to find a problem. You have to start from the problem and match the solution and remove all the friction to get to that solution. And unfortunately, and this is where it plagues all of the world of talent, whether it's freelance talent, whether it's, a talent marketplace, whatever, one of the core problems that's so hard is if it's AI. Actually, you know what? I'll use the stupidest example. If we're a sandwich shop, right? I'm hungry and you'll get a sandwich in less than 5 minutes. That's immediate. It's like, hey, I'm hungry. I've recognized what I need and I'll take a number five, right? Easy. Here's your sandwich. Okay. Moving up the ladder, if we do talk about AI, with AI right now, it's like, hey, I need to get this website done. You can, if you want, literally just copy LinkedIn, take their slug, put it into a cloud terminal, and it'll get built, right? Like you'll see this immediate result. In the world of talent, it's, oh, okay, so you want that solution? Do you want a person? No. Do you want some resumes? No. Do you want job? No. So there's this like weird contradiction where like the first principle of what the leader who has the money actually wants is not directly what the world of talent usually gives. Now, with that said, outcome based work and project like it should buck that trend because it should be as simple as when I ask you, Yuri, hey, we have to build a community, and you're like, well, this is what's ahead of you. It should be as simple as, oh wow, okay, that's the roadmap. All right, you wanna start with a pilot? Okay, pilot means 5K for milestone, right? Like it should be that simple. Now, I'll give you two quick stories, and I think it's a good way to even like close out the pod, but then hear more about, what for you, what the next 6 months looks like and what, you want our audience to do. But so two quick stories to kind of put a bow around this. The first is, I think it was around Q4 of last year. There's a company, IT transformation. They're down 100 million in revenue. Okay. Pain. Ouch. Right? Like there's enough where you're going to get at least 5 minutes to be like, okay, tell me more about this pain. All right. Leading driver of pain was not that they didn't have the work, they couldn't meet the work. And so they would sell the project, but then they couldn't actually get the consultants onto the project. Ooh, this is our swim lane, right? Like this is our gold. So then, all right, it's not oh, do you want a freelancer? It's, oh, do you want to actually fill that project in less than 2 days? And then it turns into holy shit, you have a way to do that. Now, here's the funny part. So we get the executive sign off, right? Of like, hey, I want everyone to do this. And within these large companies, you have multiple businesses and then teams underneath that. So get the executive sign off, go to the delivery managers, and first delivery manager is like, oh yeah, I'll sign it good, sign it good, sign it good. And then they're like, wait, did you just say freelancer? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, I would never do that. I can't show the client that. There's no way. And we go, okay, well, what do you do today? He goes, well, we have external consultants. And I'm like, all right, man, call it an external consultant, right? Like the taxonomy is if in the US, they're 1099 or W-2, right? If in Europe, so that was first story. Second one, and this is directly talking about like Microsoft project, right? So in one example, it was a customer support function. And what's the problem that Microsoft has? They can't keep end users from not churning and they can't get adoption. And so if you think about something like a Copilot versus a Claude, yeah, unfortunately, Copilot does not have the level of retention and adoption that Cloud does, right? So, okay, how do you fix that? Well, if you have individuals from a customer service perspective, if you have individuals that own their own business that are incented to want to win your next work and are incented to get you to have a big outcome, they're probably going to be better than like a customer service agency in India or the Philippines where no one really gives a shit. They're just trying to have as many calls as possible, right? So those are two examples where it's like clear business need, clear route to the solution, still being flexible talent, but not about the talent, not about the interviews, not about the resumes. Nobody cares. So with that said, Yuri, give us your next 6 months and give us exactly what you want our listeners to do right now.
If I knew, you know. So first of all, of course, the next 6 months we'll have freelance unlocked in Berlin. It's the first thing because it's we are creating the space where we connect specifically this talent with end clients and with recruiters, people who are in between. Because we are creating the space where all the sides can talk to each other in like this friendly setting and understand that it's not that hard to work with each other. That's exactly what I'm trying to also build here in Poland. I'm creating a space where freelancers can meet clients and recruiters, and all these people talk to each other and understand that it's not that hard. You have a problem with contracts, here is a freelance lawyer, they will make a contract. You have a problem with compliance, here is Jeff Nugent's independently go check your compliance. You have a problems with payings, here is some internet bank that deals with all these payments. So I'm currently trying to build an easy FAQ for each question, for each blocker the company might have. And as to your point, they don't need talent, they need to get shit done. And that's exactly the hardest part, is to identify what they need to get done, because they will never tell random people from the street about the challenges and the problems they might face in their company. So I have to build this human connections, and it won't take one day. It will take time. I have to build this human connection where this person will trust me and they'll be ready to say, hey, Yuri, you know, we have shitty thing going on in this department. We are really thinking about hiring some contractors, but we don't know where to start. I know that you are in this industry. What would you tell us to do? Like, what do you think about this? And only at this moment we start talking, because otherwise, for me personally, there is no way to get into their head unless we create these human relationships. And what I would say for listeners to do, if you are growing this industry, talk to hundreds of people, to thousands of people, like be always on top of their mind, keep telling them about the benefits, about what do they get, how they can solve their challenges and their problems with independent talent. Once again, Matt, to your point, not selling them talent, but giving them a solution to their pain. And also go build those relationships, because that's exactly how you move forward. That's, you know, I have very similar feelings about community industry and freelance industry and independent talent industry, because both of those things, they're bringing immense superpower. They bring in a lot of benefits to businesses, but they need time. You have to grow them. You have to build systems and processes, and everyone needs something for yesterday. So they still need, so go build those relationships. Do not be afraid. Do not be demotivated because you don't see overnight results, but just keep going, just keep doing. And hopefully at some point we'll see that more and more companies having, as Rich Wilson says, at least 40, 40, 20 percentage, which means 40% full-time, 40% independent talent, and 20% AI. So who knows? Let's see what the future of work
I
holds for
agree with you,
us.
Yuri. I agree with you. So the title of this episode, Yuri, I recommend Out with Talent, In with Getting Shit Done, and Relationships. And so with that said, Yuri, thank you for hopping on.
Yes, thank you.
And first of many listeners, go reach out to Yuri ASAP. Connect with him on LinkedIn. We'll put your links in the show notes, Yuri. But as always, my friend, thank you for hopping on.